Warning from Vancouver. Police say a couple of people are going around taking purses from women in very public places. As Mike Benner found out, the purse thefts are just the beginning of trouble for some of the victims.
Even on a gloomy Friday, there was a crowd kicking off the weekend at Vancouver's waterfront. There's one woman who's avoiding this area, though, still shaken by what happened here just last week. So much so that she asked to remain anonymous.
It's just kind of been a never-ending fiasco and talking with police departments.
The woman told authorities, and now us, she was sitting outside at one of the restaurants when she spotted a car pull up. A young man jumped out and approached her table.
Said, "Excuse me, ma'am," and then reached over and grabbed my purse. As he was attempting to flee with it, I got a hand on it, but he got the better of me and jumped in that same car that I'd seen before, and they took off.
She says they wasted no time going to Fred Meyer and racking up $2,000 in charges on her credit card. Then a day or two later, she says, somebody, in all likelihood the purse snatcher, came to her house and stole her car.
Shook me to the core. I had work and had to call, and it's been a nightmare with talking to credit bureaus and closing down accounts and insurance and DMV.
Unfortunately, she's not the only one dealing with this nightmare. Several other women have had bags stolen over the last couple of weeks in Vancouver. Authorities tell us one was sitting on a park bench at the waterfront. Others were in parking lots. Most, if not all, of the cases appear to be connected and have the attention of detectives.
It's very violent to have somebody take something off of your person in such a sudden way. And then obviously a lot of personal information gets stolen at the same time, not just credit cards, but your driver's license, potentially social security information. There could be a pay stub in there. There could be all kinds of things.
The woman we spoke to knows that all too well. She tells us her car has been recovered with other purses and backpacks inside. Now she's hoping investigators can track down the crew behind the thefts.
I want them caught, but I also want them to realize what they're doing, whether they have any remorse or not. I can't. That's beyond me. That's between them and God.
Police are asking women in the Vancouver area to be careful, be extra aware of surroundings, and of course anyone with information about these cases should contact the Vancouver Police Department. I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
This morning, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler addressed the ongoing gun violence plaguing the city. So far this year, there have been more than 870 shootings, well on pace to surpass last year's total of 891. The mayor explained today what the city's doing to try and reduce this violence. First, they've created the Enhanced Community Safety Team, which puts more investigative resources towards shootings. Then the city diverted $6 million of the police budget to community-based organizations. And finally, they're working to create a focus intervention team that would involve a dozen officers and 2 sergeants working to get more guns off the streets.
It's very easy to say, I want to reduce gun violence by 20% in 15 months. The hard part is actually deploying the strategies and the resources to make it happen. And that's where I'm focusing my attention and my energy.
The mayor also wants to fund an initiative to quickly get more officers hired. And he wants to increase funding to 311 to have those operators take non-emergency calls to improve 911 response time. Now let's get you caught up on some of tonight's other headlines. A bull rider was killed in a crash while visiting Eastern Oregon for the Pendleton Roundup. 24-year-old Richard Schleicher from Kansas died after the car he was riding in crashed into a commercial truck. This was on I-84 near Pendleton last night. 2 other bull riders in the car were also hurt and taken to the hospital. A beaver is being blamed for starting a brush fire near Multnomah Falls last night. Fire crews say the beaver chewed through a tree, which then got blown over onto some power lines, sparking the fire. It kind of sounds like the beaver's the scapegoat there, but I'll go on. It started south of I-84 near the Multnomah Falls exit. Crews had it out in about 2 hours. And today was the deadline for the City of Portland employees to turn in their vaccination status or face being fired. As of yesterday, more than 74% of city employees had submitted their status. Those who did not send in paperwork will now be put on a, quote, separation list. They'll have until October 18th to get vaccinated. We don't know yet how many people applied for an exemption. We learned today that 5 people have been hospitalized in Oregon after taking Ivermectin to try and treat COVID. Doctors, the FDA, and Merck, the manufacturer that makes this drug, all say this is not an effective or safe treatment against COVID. Kristen Severance has the warning.
Ivermectin is a drug meant to treat parasites in people and some animals. Federal, state, and local health officials all say ivermectin does not work when treating COVID. Dr. Robert Hendrickson is the medical director at the Oregon Poison Center at OHSU.
Ivermectin is a medication that doesn't work for COVID. It doesn't prevent it. It doesn't treat it. And it can be risky to take it.
The Oregon Poison Center reports 25 cases of people intentionally misusing ivermectin to treat or prevent COVID since August 1st. 5 people had to be hospitalized. The patients had a variety of symptoms, from mental confusion to seizures.
One of the things that we've been seeing is a lot of people who are purchasing veterinary products or veterinary ivermectin to treat themselves. It's really difficult to get the right dose for a human from a veterinary product. And most of the cases we're talking about here are people who have done that. They've tried to get the right dose and made a mistake or just miscalculated. And can get really, really sick. And we've even had people go to the ICU.
Dr. Hendrickson said while some early studies showed ivermectin may work to treat COVID, this was in a lab. When tested in the real world on people, ivermectin did not work.
I think there's a lot of interest in ivermectin. And some of the earlier studies were really exciting. And if you only read that early study, the cell studies and things like that, it's reasonable to come to the conclusion that ivermectin might work. But unfortunately, we've done bigger studies and studies that are really well designed, and it simply didn't work in any of those studies.
We also talked to Dr. Marcel Kerlin about those early studies. He's an infectious disease specialist at OHSU.
The problem with ivermectin is those laboratory studies, use doses that are orders of magnitude higher than what you and I would get for a parasitic disease. So the problem is you run into toxicity.
Doctors say the best way to prevent COVID is to get vaccinated. There are some treatments working to help COVID patients, like monoclonal antibodies. That treatment was given emergency use authorization by the FDA and is being used by at least 30 hospitals to keep high-risk COVID patients out of the hospital. Ivermectin is not approved by the FDA as a treatment for COVID.
So my plea is to not use ivermectin. Get in touch with their primary healthcare provider, see if there's something that you qualify to take to get your symptoms better. But ivermectin is not worth it.
Kristen Severance reporting there. In developing news, police are looking for clues in the disappearance of a Florida woman on a cross-country trip to Oregon. And now her fiance is missing. Gabby Petito started the trip in July with her fiance, Brian Laundrie, in a converted camper van. They were on a tour of national parks. She was last seen at the Grand Teton National Park in late August. Tonight, police searched Laundrie's home in Florida. His family says he came home by himself September 1st, but now they don't know where he is. He's refused to cooperate with investigators, and police in Utah have also released body camera video showing officers responding to a reported fight between that couple on August 12th. According to social media, the couple's social media accounts, they had planned to reach Portland by Halloween.